So, you know that thing that you've been thinking about doing for months, maybe even years? That offer you've been fine tuning, or that website page that you've been getting ready? That launch that you've been telling yourself will happen when everything is just right? Yeah, that. I want to tell you something you might not want to hear. The perfect moment you're waiting for, it doesn't exist. And the longer you wait, the more it costs you in opportunities, in confidence, and in actual revenue. Because here's the secret: action, even messy, imperfect action, is the thing that builds your business. Not the perfect Instagram grid, not the perfectly worded email, not the hours researching what other people are doing. Today, we're going to talk about how to stop waiting for permission and start acting like the leader that you already are. Welcome back to Boldly Introverted, the online business podcast, where we talk about building your business in a way that feels true to you. No hype, no burnout, and no pretending to be somebody you're not. Today, we're diving into something I know you've felt before. Maybe you're feeling it right now: the waiting game. That subtle, sneaky habit of telling yourself you'll take action when things feel ready. When you've learned a little more, when your offer is more polished, when your Instagram looks like a design portfolio. I know this game well because I played it too. And here's the thing: it feels productive. I felt productive. You're working on your business, right? You're getting prepared. You're making it better. But what's actually happening is you're standing still. And all the while, opportunities are passing by quietly in the background. For women especially, this waiting pattern can run deep. We are often taught from childhood to be careful, to be prepared, to avoid mistakes at all costs. And while those traits can be strengths, in business, they can turn into invisible chains that keep us from moving forward. You don't need someone else's permission to lead your business. You don't need all the lights to turn green before you start driving, just the one in front of you. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about what happens when women stop waiting. Why bold action isn't just a mindset shift, it's the real growth strategy that will change your business. We'll break down why waiting feels safe, but actually keeps you stuck, how to actually start building confidence through action, and how to find your own version of ready enough so you can get moving now. And if you're someone who wrestles with perfectionism, anxiety, or that just one more tweak habit, I see you. We're not going to shame that part of you. We're going to work with it so it doesn't hold you hostage. Because here's the truth: the only way to create the business you've been imagining is to stop thinking about it and start actually doing it. Even if it's a little messy, actually, especially if it's a little messy. So let's talk about how to make that shift. Here's where I want to go with this episode. We're going to look at why the waiting game feels so comfortable and why it's quietly costing you more than you think. Why what looks like playing it safe can actually be the thing that's holding you back from the business that you want. We're going to talk about how confidence isn't something that you wait for, it's something that you create by doing the thing, even when it feels awkward or messy at first. And we'll get into the perfectionism trap, how it can keep you circling forever, and what it could look like even if it's not picture perfect. And because you don't need another rah pep talk without a next step, I'm going to share some ways to shift out of that endless thinking and preparing mode into actually moving forward without overwhelming yourself or trying to change everything at once. So hopefully by the end of this episode, I want you to feel a little lighter and a lot more certain that you can take your next bold step today. Not someday, but today. So let's start with waiting. Waiting sometimes feels like the responsible thing to do. It feels smart, careful, strategic even. You tell yourself, I'll launch when I've got everything in place. And it sounds so reasonable in your own head that you believe it. But here's the catch: that I'll start when promise is a moving target. The more you prepare, the more you find to prepare for. You keep pushing the starting line further and further out without realizing it. And while you're still fine tuning your website or rethinking your offer for the 10th time or, 50th, someone else is out there building connections or testing ideas or learning in real time. We like to tell ourselves we're keeping ourselves safe by waiting. But really, we're avoiding the discomfort of being seen before we feel ready. That's the real risk that we're dodging. Not failure, but vulnerability. The hard truth is, staying in prep mode does not protect you from mistakes. It just protects you from progress. It keeps your business an idea in your head instead of something real in the world. And if we're being honest, the safety we think we found is actually just a very well decorated cage. The moment you start moving, even with shaky hands and a half finished plan, is the moment things will start to shift. That's where the opportunities live. That's where the real learning is going to happen. And that brings us to the next piece, this idea that you need confidence before you act. Spoiler, it's the other way around. Most of us grow up believing confidence is something you have before you take action. Like there's a magic moment when you suddenly feel brave enough or skilled enough or certain enough, and then finally, you're ready. But in business, and honestly in life, it just doesn't work that way. Confidence isn't a prerequisite, it's really a side effect. Think about it. You don't learn to swim by standing on the edge of the pool or reading about water safety. You learn by getting in the water. You splash around, maybe flail around a bit, swallow some water, but eventually you find your rhythm. And the next time, you feel a little more sure. It's the same with your business. Sending that first pitch or posting your first offer or hitting publish on your website, it feels really nerve-wracking the first time. But each time you do it, you collect proof that you can actually do it. Even if it doesn't go perfectly, you realize you're capable of handling it. Confidence is really just your brain saying, I've done this before and survived. I can do it again. And you can only really get that proof by actually doing the thing, not by endlessly preparing to do it. So the more you wait for confidence to show up first, the more you're going to stall. But if you take the leap, even when you feel shaky, that's when confidence is going to start to really kick in. And there's one big thing that trips up even the most determined of us when we try to move forward: perfectionism. Let's talk about how that one sneaky habit can keep you circling in place forever. Perfectionism feels like a virtue. It feels like you're just holding yourself to a higher standard. And in some ways, that's true. Caring about your work is a good thing, not a bad thing. But perfectionism has a way of taking that care and twisting it into another reason not to act. It shows up in 100 tiny little ways. You rework your sales page for the 4th time this month. You don't launch the offer because you still need more photos. You keep researching the best software instead of just picking one and using it. It all feels productive. Well, sort of. But it's really just dressed up procrastination. And here's the thing: perfection is a moving target. The closer you get, the further it shifts. You will always find one more tweak, one more detail to fix, one more reason to wait. Meanwhile, the work that you could have shared, the work that could be reaching people, is just sitting there not being seen by anyone. And I want to be clear, letting go of perfection doesn't mean lowering your standards. For some of us, especially if you're neurodivergent, you live with anxiety, you have OCD tendencies, releasing something before it feels just right is deeply uncomfortable. And that's real. But progress often means finding your version of good enough for now and letting that out into the world. Because here's the truth: no one's business starts out flawless. If you think that, you've been misled. Your favorite creators didn't launch with perfect branding or the most polished offer or even a bulletproof plan. They started with what they had, learned a whole bunch of things along the way, and improved because they were already in motion. Done work can be improved. Perfect work that never sees the light of day, it can't help anyone, not even you. And that's why the next shift is really important. Learning how to spot the exact moments when you're slipping into that like perpetual prep mode so you can interrupt it before it steals more time from you. One of the trickiest things about being in prep mode is that it often hides in plain sight because it doesn't always look or feel like you're avoiding action. Sometimes it looks like being thorough, or you're just getting prepared, or you're just making sure everything's right. But if you start listening to your own language, you should be able to hear the clues. Phrases like, I'll do it when, or I just need to, or once I finish. These are the red flags that you're stuck in prep mode. And if you're not careful, they can keep you circling forever. So, how do you break the pattern? First, you need to actually notice it. When you catch yourself putting conditions on an action, you need to pause and ask yourself, am I actually preparing or am I just postponing? Next, shrink the steps. Instead of thinking about the big leap, the full launch, the complete overhaul, choose one small, non-negotiable action you can take today. Something you can finish in 20 minutes or less. Just send the pitch, post the offer, write the email, or book the call. The point isn't to knock out your entire to-do list. The point is to start building momentum. Small wins are gateways to bigger ones. They remind your brain that you're in motion, you've started. And here's the real magic. The more you stack those small actions, the braver you're going to get. That's when bold action stops feeling like a mountain and starts feeling more like your normal pace. From there, something powerful will start to happen. You're going to start seeing yourself a little differently each time. You're no longer someone who's thinking about starting. You're already doing the thing. And that little shift will change everything for you. Which brings us to one more truth we need to talk about. The very real reason bold action can feel especially loaded for women entrepreneurs, and how breaking out of that prep mode is really about taking back your own authority. You can feel it in your bones. This isn't just about taking a few more risks or putting yourself out there. For women, bold action often carries extra weight because we've been trained in subtle and not so subtle ways to keep our moves measured, our tone polite, and our ambitions quiet until someone else says it's okay. And that conditioning runs really deep. We've been told to be responsible and prepared, which sounds reasonable, right? But here's the twist. Those same values can lock us in prep mode. And it doesn't just slow your business, it chips away at your trust in your own instincts. You second guess the decisions you were already ready to make. The shift comes when you stop looking for someone else's green light, when you realize your business doesn't need a permission slip, just your commitment to start where you are. You don't have to be reckless. You simply have to decide that now counts, even if the conditions aren't perfect. Every small gutsy move, sending that pitch, publishing the offer, sending the email, is you reclaiming authority over your own success. And with each move, the voice that says wait gets a little quieter, while the one that says go gets a little bit stronger. Because at the end of the day, bold action isn't just about what you do. It's about who you become when you stop living in fear and start accepting that you have authority over your own life. The truth is, most of us aren't actually waiting for the perfect moment. We're waiting for a feeling, the confidence or the certainty, the magical sense that we'll know exactly what to do. But that feeling, it doesn't come first. It shows up because you've already started moving. Prep mode feels safe. It keeps you from the sting of rejection or the discomfort of figuring things out in public. but it also keeps you stuck in the planning phase long after you're capable of more. And the longer you stay there, the harder it feels to take that first step. Bold action doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be as small as you need it to be. Small moves still stack. They still build momentum. They shift your identity from someone who's working on it to someone who's doing it. And that shift, that's where everything changes. So if you've been telling yourself you'll start when you're ready, maybe the truth is you're already ready enough. Even if it's messy, even if it's imperfect. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. Especially if it's imperfect. Your future business isn't built in some far off perfect moment. It's built in the choices you make today. And you don't need anyone's permission to start.